It is an honor to be here today as we celebrate our conservation leaders, and I'm especially honored to introduce two from the U.S. Department of Agriculture here with us today. The first is Deputy Secretary of Agriculture, Xochitl Torres Small. The granddaughter of farm workers, the Deputy Secretary grew up in the borderlands of New Mexico. Prior to joining the USDA, she was a United States representative for the 5th largest district in the country, where she served as a member of the House Agriculture Committee, the House Armed Services Committee, and as chairwoman of the Oversight, Management, and Accountability Subcommittee of the House Homeland Security Committee. The Deputy Secretary was the first woman and the first person of color to represent New Mexico's 2nd Congressional District. She also previously served as USDA Undersecretary for Rural Development. In this role, she oversaw loans and grants to provide infrastructure improvements, business development, affordable housing, community facilities such as schools, public safety and healthcare, and high-speed internet access in rural, tribal, and high-poverty areas. During her leadership, USDA Rural Development secured $2 billion to support rural broadband through the bipartisan infrastructure law. She was confirmed by the United States Senate to serve as the Deputy Secretary of Agriculture in 2023. She is the first Latina to hold this position. Joining the Deputy Secretary for Conservation is Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation, Robert Bonney. Undersecretary Bonney served as the Deputy Chief of Staff and Climate Advisor at USDA prior to his confirmation as Undersecretary. He also served as Undersecretary for Natural Resources and Environment at USDA from 2013 to 2017, and as Senior Advisor for Secretary Tom Vilsack from 2009 to 2013. Before joining USDA, Undersecretary Bonney was an executive in residence at Duke University's Nicholas Institute for Environmental Policy Solutions, working on conservation and environmental issues in rural America. He has also worked with the Bipartisan Policy Center on its Farm and Forest Carbon Solutions Initiative and with the Environmental Defense Fund, where he focused on developing incentives to reward stewardship on private lands. Let's welcome to the stage Deputy Secretary Torres Small and Undersecretary Bonney.
Thank you.
Robert, this is such an exciting time, and I'm just so deeply grateful to get to join NACD. Growing up in New Mexico, this is the group of people who, when there's hard work to be done and no glamour, they're the ones who raise their hand to be part of the solution. So I just want to thank you all so much for having us have this conversation today, and for being people who do the work because you love it. For working hard to make sure that your homes, that farms and soil and water are there not just for your generation, but for the future and for the future of working lands. Robert, what are some of the things that you love about working with NACD?
Well, the chief talked about the shared history we have in NRCS and NACD. It goes way back to that guy standing over there, Hugh Hammond Bennett. And I think building on what you said, Deputy, the can-do attitude of the conservation districts, the close partnership we have with all of you. We can't get our work done without you all. You're just an incredibly important partner, and obviously greatly appreciated and recognizes that by all of us at USDA.
Oh, thank you. It's interesting, when I think about working as Deputy Secretary, I spent a lot of time thinking about the future of USDA in terms of, are we going to have the staff that we need to do this historic work? Are we going to have the IT resources that we need to make our problems easier, or our programs easier to access? And what do our contracts look like, especially in challenging funding years? But I know you spend a lot of time thinking about the future of farming, the future of farm workforce. And that's why when we look towards this announcement that we have to provide today, I think about what partner I most want to step into the future with, and how we can prepare for the next generation of farmers and the next generation of ag professionals. So I'm really excited about this announcement, the Working Lands Climate Corps, and would love to hear what makes you excited about that work.
So first, this is a great opportunity and a shared opportunity for all of us to get more folks, more young folks in particular, veterans and others, I think, into conservation, into agriculture, into forestry, and to understand the link between those things and climate resilience and climate mitigation. The thing that really makes me excited about this is, for a long time, those of us who've kind of been in conservation and ag policy, people have sort of looked askew at the fact that agriculture and forestry has something to contribute to climate mitigation and climate resilience. And it's exciting to me to be able to get young people in, to be able to advance the things we're doing in climate smart agriculture and forestry, which, by the way, you all know this, we've been doing this stuff for a long time. We just ain't called it climate smart. It's been called good conservation. This is an opportunity to get young people to understand the important role that all you all play, that agriculture plays, that forestry plays, and to understand the critical role not only in the conservation side, the climate side, but also in food production, fiber production, all those things. So I'm excited about getting more people in and to bring new people to the game that appreciate the work that all of you all have been doing for a long, long time. So to me, the announcement today is we've got a seat at the table, and I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud to be able to partner with all of you on it.
It's an incredible announcement. I mean, the idea that we have a partner like NACD and all of the conservation districts across the country who are willing to connect states and organizations with, starting with 100 young people who want to be part of the solution, who want to help connect farmers to the historic resources that are available through the Inflation Reduction Act, for those conservation programs that have been in existence for a long time, but are always oversubscribed, right? And then also not always reaching farmers who could make the most out of it, right? Farmers who maybe feel like programs aren't for them or haven't built a relationship with USDA, found out how to navigate to get that access to those programs. And so having someone on the ground who can learn from farmers and ranchers, learn from NACD and Soil Conservation Board members, and also support farmers and ranchers in getting access to these programs.
Yeah, and I think the critical role that NACD is going to play here is really around training. And we hope you're going to have opportunities, the conservation districts are going to have opportunities to take advantage of this and look for opportunities that they can put young folks on their teams to work with them as part of the Working Lands Climate Corps. But we're going to need your partnership to be able to figure out how do we train these folks, how do we get them up to speed, and I think it's a unique opportunity for all of us to forward the partnership that we've been at for a long time.
So we've got a bigger discussion here, but I just want to end this part with thanking NACD and thanking all of you in the room for this partnership, for the Working Lands Climate Corps, and for this historic announcement that we're able to make today. Thank you all so much for the work that you're doing. So now, Robert, you've been working with farmers and ranchers on the ground for a while here. And so often folks talk, you just made this comment about how the sustainable ag that's been going on all across the country, how conservation has been happening for a long time. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're seeing on the ground? Are we making the partnerships necessary? Are we reaching people? Are we learning from people enough as we step into this work? If you spend any time watching Washington, D.C. right now, your head starts to hurt because you think about the polarization that we see around so many issues. And the one place where there's a ton of alignment is the issues that all of us work on, working lands conservation. There's bipartisan support, broad support in rural America, urban America for the type of work that we've been doing for a long time.
So on the one hand, I look out and I think, hey, we've got the partnerships to build on to do really good work out in the countryside. And so, you know, part of the answer to your question is that, hey, we've got a really good foundation that NRCS, NACD, lots of other partners have been at for a long time. I also look out and think, we got a huge challenge. We need to do more, that the challenges are bigger. We need to scale up more quickly. And I think the partnership with all of you is, and the conservation districts and our other partners is going to be critical to that.
Yeah, it's certainly, when I think about the challenges now, when I was a field representative for Senator Udall decades ago and talking with farmers, it was a different conversation about drought than it is now. Now it's an annual question. Now it's mixed with the impact of just catastrophic wildfire. And now it's about making sure that their grandkids are going to have a place to farm and a way to farm. So recognizing that we're all seeing things in a little bit of a different light. I was in Ohio recently where they have this valley that produces ice wine, something I'd never heard of before. But it was really incredible. One farmer had moved out there and created this market, and then it created this entire ecosystem of farmers who are producing ice wine. And he was seeing year to year that crucial freeze for his wine was becoming less and less reliable. And so thinking about what that means for that entire ecosystem that he'd helped develop into this economic opportunity. So certainly facing a larger size of challenge than we've seen before.
Yeah, no doubt. And I remember as one of the things that got me into conservation was hunting and fishing with my grandfather as a kid. The coldest mornings I ever spent were out with my grandfather, deer hunting or duck hunting or whatever it was. I look back now and I can see the changes that are happening in the landscape, and many of us here see those same challenges. And the opportunity to engage, to bring agriculture in, to take advantage of this common approach we've had for a long time of incentive-based conservation, to put it on the ground, I think is really exciting to me. So you've spent a lot of time thinking about young folks, future farmers. Curious what the opportunities you see with the Working Lands Climate Corps, but other opportunities to get more folks in.
Growing up, my aunt and uncle had a ranch in Bedrock, Colorado, and I would spend summers out there with my cousin, who had always planned to stay and work the land. She went to vet school because she felt like that was the way she'd come back and be a large animal vet, because so often you have to have two incomes in order to support working the land. But while she was in school, my aunt and uncle lost their farm. And so her choices changed, her opportunity changed. And she's no longer, now she's a teacher and she gets to teach others about ecology and science, which she loves. But she wasn't able to have that choice to come back home. So I've been traveling the country and working with students in land-grant universities, and I encounter kids like my cousin who might have a chance to go back home, maybe are studying business, to be able to come back, and because marketing has become such a crucial part of farming these days. But then I also encounter lots of kids who don't have a farm necessarily go to, but want to be part of agriculture. And what I'm excited about with this Working Lands Climate Corps is that there's a chance for kids from young people from any background to be connected to agriculture, be connected to this work, and be connected to conservation districts and their long history of the connection to the land. So that we don't have to spend nights worrying about whether the next generation will have the benefit of the wealth of knowledge in this room, that there's time for them to work directly with you as partners and carry on this work.
Chief talked about this morning how a lot of our customers are repeat customers. I can't remember the term he used, Chief. But both in our workforce and in the work we do, the importance of getting new people in, I think, is incredibly important. And I think the Working Lands Climate Corps provides a real opportunity there. You've thought a lot also about whether it's our Inflation Reduction Act resources or other resources, bipartisan infrastructure law. I know when you were at rural development, you thought a lot about that. What can we do at USDA and working with our partners to make sure that those programs that everybody's able to access them, whether you're a rural county or maybe an underserved farm or otherwise?
When I was an undersecretary at Rural Development, it was the first investment in money was the bipartisan infrastructure law and funds for high-speed internet. And rural development's similar to NRCS in that we have employees all across the country, and that is vital to the work that we do. I like to call USDA a bit of a unicorn because there's lots of departments that don't have that local connection, that don't have that experience of what it means to be on the ground, of what programs really look like when they're reaching people. And sometimes that impacts the decisions that are made. So when it comes to trying to make our programs work better for people, it really means listening to our staff all across the country and investing in our staff all across the country. And what I realized is that we couldn't deliver these programs in the way that people across the country deserved if we weren't investing in our operations, if we weren't investing in our people, investing in our IT, and investing in the way that we spend our money. And so that got me focused on that back-end work, which might seem a little boring, but otherwise it's just money in a room. It's not reaching the people who will put it to work. I have been wanting to talk with you about this some time because your work for the Partnership for Climate Smart Commodities has been essential in building those collaborations for voluntary incentive-based work. And I just love to get a peek inside your brain about how that was developed and what you were thinking about as you were developing it.
I won't take authorship or ownership. It was developed in partnership with a lot of folks, both at USDA and outside of USDA, including folks in this room. I think as we think about the challenge of climate change, for a lot of other areas, folks related to energy, folks think about different types of approaches to tracking the problem. Here we know, again, because of a lot of the work that you all have done for a long time, the power of voluntary incentive-based approaches. We know that there are a lot of things we can do for climate that are both good for climate and good for agriculture and forest productivity. We've got this alignment that you see on the climate issue that you don't see on a lot of other environmental issues, certainly when it comes to agriculture and forestry. And so our effort around the Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities to try and take advantage of that is to de-risk folks to go out and try these types of practices, to scale them up, to look for ways that they can partner with farmers, ranchers, forest owners to get that done. And then to look for ways that we can measure the outcomes, so to make sure that we can look the taxpayer in the eye and say, hey, these dollars are well spent, we get real benefits out of it. But also so that we can create markets, so we can create ways for folks to do good by doing good, whether it's markets for climate smart commodities, carbon, climate smart biofuels, whatever it is. And I think when we started off thinking about doing something around partnerships or climate smart commodities, we did a lot of listening first. And I think that was the most important thing. Our goal is to build something that actually agriculture and forestry see themselves in, landowners see themselves in, folks that have been in the conservation world see themselves in, and can implement on the ground. The other thing I will say is just there's a certain amount of humility here, which is we don't have all the answers. There's a lot of learning that needs to happen if we're trying to create these markets or scale this stuff up. And so we're going into this recognizing we're going to do a lot of learning. And we're going to do a lot of learning with you all. You all have a really cool, you're involved in a bunch of the partnerships projects, but NACD has a project of its own. And we're going to learn by working with you all about what works, how do we scale this up, and how we move quickly. And so it's been a real pleasure to work with lots of folks in agriculture and forestry to develop it. And it's a real team effort. And I would just say, more broadly in conservation, you all know this, we get nothing done alone. We get it all done because we partner and figure out how to work together.
I couldn't agree with you more that we get nothing done alone, that it does take those partnerships. But I do think a crucial part of the work is about the next generation of the USDA workforce. And so I spoke a little bit about what that meant in terms of getting out high-speed internet, but I'd love to hear from you just what it means when it comes to FPAC, that future of USDA and the workforce, and what that means for you in terms of this energy in facing these challenges together.
Well, I think we think about some of the challenges to our workforce right now, and you all know we're in a really competitive employment situation right now, very low unemployment. People have choices. And so we think about how do we take care of our existing employees now, and particularly our field folks in NRCS and FSA in particular, lots of conversations about that. But then how do we get new people in? Again, the chief talked this morning about the number of people we have to think about hiring and where we're going to draw those people from, and making sure that we're pulling people from every community, every university to make sure that USDA staff looks like the United States of America and the diversity of US. And so this issue of the pipeline of people I think is really, really important. Is another reason I think to be excited about the Working Lands Climate Corps, is that this is an opportunity to build a pipeline of folks that can come in, that we can train up, and that can work for USDA or work in other parts of the agriculture and conservation side. So these issues of workforce, I know you dealt with them a lot in rural development, and now you're dealing with them a lot in the whole department. These issues of workforce are critically important, and we're going to need partners to help us figure it out.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been spending a lot of time thinking about challenges, so maybe we can end thinking about what gives you hope. As we enjoy breaking bread together and these next few days for the conference, what are some of the things that give you hope about the future?
I think it's easy to get cynical about government, to look at sort of polarization in government and society right now, but there's so much I think to be optimistic about. And again, I would come back to the work folks in this room, the conservation community have been doing for a long, long time. There's a great legacy, I think, to build on there, and I think we have a really good story to tell. I don't think the American people fully understand that story, and I think we need a better job of telling all the good things that are happening out in the field now. We've got more work to do. You all know we're working to streamline conservation programs, make them work better. How do we partner better with you all? How do we make it easier for you all to take advantage of programs to work along? There's all that stuff we need to do. But I'm really optimistic about the quality of people we have and about the opportunity to do good things. And we've got resources to do good things right now. But at the same time, we're under some pressure to do that well, and to get those resources put out in the field in a way that obviously works for the environment, works for our customers, the producers, and as well works for the taxpayer. Now, Deputy, you are one of the most optimistic people I've ever met. So, what about you? What are you optimistic about in terms of agriculture, conservation, young folks? When I was a representative in New Mexico, I spent a lot of time driving all across rural New Mexico, and I was with a young staff member who was from Reserve in Catron County, and we were driving through Santa Rosa, actually in between Santa Rosa and our way somewhere else, and we passed through a main street that was just completely boarded up. And this guy looked at me and said, "We've got to find a way to save our rural towns." And this is a guy who left his hometown because he wasn't sure what opportunities were there for him. And going to these land grant institutions and talking with students, there's been a few who just stick with me, like that staffer sticks with me. One is a researcher who built her research plan based on a conversation with the farmer.
where she thought, oh, this is a real problem that requires a real solution. And then spent her time, her question with me, thinking about how do we best now make sure that we get these tools to farmers to be able to solve. Another one was, she came from an ag background. Her and her 3 siblings are all going into ag. And she wants to go in because she spent some time working overseas on food programs. And she realizes that the food we produce here is so connected to solving so many challenges that people rely on all over the world. And she wants to make sure that we're investing in both. And the last was a woman when we were talking about how do we invest in both efficiency and resiliency, and why is it important? And I'm sure you've heard the Secretary's whiteboard speech about investing in small and mid-sized farmers. I don't know if any of you have heard the speech. Don't worry, I won't give it here, but hope you will keep your eyes perked or your ears perked for it in the future. But one of the reasons why investing in small and mid-sized farmers and those local and regional markets matters is because it connects people. It connects urban centers and nutrition to hardworking farmers who are feeding all of us. And especially right now when things can feel so divisive, people are searching for a way to be connected. And for me, we were having this conversation. She raised her hand. She said, how can I be a part of that? How can I be a part of connecting people? And that's what I see about these Working Lands Climate Corps volunteers, students, is that they are signing up to be connected and to learn from each of you. So the fact that you all are raising your hand and saying, yeah, I'll take some time to work with a young person who might have some silly questions that I've got to figure out, and to have a young person who's going to say, oh, I'm not going to get stuck on TikTok, but I'm going to get out and see the land and figure out how to be part of the solution, that to me makes this work worth it.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, Robert, for having this conversation.
Yeah,
I really
likewise.
appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.